everyone and welcome to episode 15 of my podcast. This is the Norwenglish Knitter podcast and you can find me here on YouTube and on Instagram as the Norwenglish Knitter, and you can find me on Ravelry as Lizzy 94. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. And if you're a new viewer, then a big hello and welcome to you. I hope you enjoy my podcast. This is primarily a knitting podcast where I show and talk about all the projects that I've been making recently. Sometimes there might be some other crafty bits in there, but it is mainly a knitting podcast. I always write the show notes for the episode down below in the description box, and I will also post all of the show notes for all the episodes over on my Ravelry group, the Norwenglish Knitter podcast. And what else? Today I'm drinking some coffee. It's just one of those days. Normally I would drink some tea or something while I'm recording, but really need a coffee today. I'm also having a really bad hair day, so I've just tucked my hair back. Recently my hair's been getting like a little bit static. I don't know why. It's really annoying because the more you try to smooth it down, the more static it gets. So then I just tie it up. So it's been, I think, 6 weeks-ish since I last recorded. So I will give a little bit of an update, as I usually do. If you're new to my podcast, I tend to do a little bit of kind of chit-chat in the beginning, and then I'll go on to my knitting content. So if you're not here for the chit chat, that's fine. I'll put a timestamp so you can skip to the knitting portion. Although you might want to stick around for the chit chat today because I have a little announcement to make. So here we are, 2021. Happy New Year, everyone. What a year last year was. Really tough year for, I'm sure, all of us in different ways. But rather than going over all the negative things from last year, I kind of want to just move on from it, and I thought it would be nicer to try and focus on some positive things that happened last year. So that's what I'll be talking about. So although 2020 was a really hard year in a lot of ways, there were some positive things that happened to us. The first one being that we were able to bring over my dog Tilly from England. You might hear her in the background. She gets a little bit restless when I'm recording. So that was really great. We picked her up in July. And we also bought a new house over in the east side of Norway, which I talked about. I can't remember if it was my last podcast or the one before that. I think it was my last podcast. So we were able to spend some time over there over our Christmas holiday, which was so lovely. It was just really relaxing, and I think it was a time that we both needed, me and my husband. If you don't already know, I live in Norway. That's where I'm recording from today. We live near Bergen in Norway, but we've bought this house over in the east with the plan to eventually move over there. It's a little kind of farmhouse in the middle of not in the middle of nowhere, but it's much more rural, real countryside, and so there's not many people around, and it's just really peaceful and quiet, so it was really lovely to spend some time there. We were careful in terms of Corona. We kept checking the rules, and we were allowed to go over there, but we did all of our food shopping and everything. We had everything we needed with us so that we weren't going into a new area of the country and going into shops and things. So we just drove straight there and just stayed there, and then came straight back. I'm not quite sure what my dog is doing. Tilly, come here. Come here. Come up here. I'm always getting into mischief when I'm recording. So those are two great things that happened. Another thing for me, kind of a more personal thing, is that I've had a real huge improvement in my mental health. I was struggling with my mental health for probably about 2 or 3 years leading up to last year. And although all this corona stuff has happened, I feel like it's given me the time to really focus on myself. And I have been working less because of the risk to me. I am in a higher risk category for health reasons. So I've really had a lot of time to focus on myself, and my knitting and crafting has really helped with that. I feel like that's such a great thing for people's mental health and peace of mind, maybe. I think we're quite lucky in these times to have such a great hobby that we can do in the privacy of our own homes, and provides many hours of fun and happiness, really. It's kind of given my days some purpose in a way. And another really exciting thing that's happened is I've reached 1,000 subscribers here on the channel, which I can't quite believe happened over the Christmas period, I think. I hadn't really been looking on my channel because I was trying to just enjoy time with family and be present in the moment. And then when I went back on, I was really shocked. So thank you to everyone that's subscribed, it really means a lot. So I thought I would do a little giveaway, a 1,000 subscriber giveaway. I haven't actually got the prize yet because I only decided yesterday that I was going to record, so I haven't had time to go anywhere, but it will be some yarn that is accessible to me, something I can buy locally, maybe either from Hillesvåg, which is 100% Norwegian wool factory relatively close to me, or perhaps from Sandnes or Rauma. So we'll see about that, but it will be a good prize. So in order to be eligible, all you have to do is like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment down below. So you can comment anything you like, but I thought it would be nice if people could comment something positive that happened in 2020 for them, so that we can focus a little bit more on some of the positive things, even though it was a really crap year. So that's kind of all of my chatty bits. So I will get on to the knitting. I have to remember to drink my coffee so it doesn't go cold. Okay, so I have a couple of finished objects to talk about that I don't actually have with me because they were Christmas gifts. I was kind of hoping to record an episode before Christmas in December, but I just didn't really have time. So I do have a picture of the first one, and I do actually have the book as well, so I'll just grab that. I got this book from my mother-in-law. She was really kind and bought me this book just as a random gift. And I have shown this on the podcast before. This is the Krotekofter by Kristin Holte. It is a book in Norwegian, and I don't think it's available in English. But it has some really gorgeous patterns in here. And I knew as soon as she bought it for me that I wanted to make her something out of it. And so I chose, let's see if I can find a picture. The thing I really like about this book is, well, there's lots of different things really. It's got some really gorgeous photography in here. And all of the patterns are written using the Hillesvåg yarn. Hillesvåg Ask yarn, I think, which is kind of a sport slash DK, I think. So that's really lovely because it's 100% Norwegian wool, and it's quite accessible to me, and it's relatively affordable. So I can pay, I think it's around, it depends what type of yarn you get, but around 90 to 100 krones for a 100 gram hank. So let's say about £8 for 100 grams, which really is not bad at all. So I'll show you a couple of pictures. This is the one that I made. This is called the Åsfrid Kofte. And I actually changed up the colours a little bit, so I'll pop a picture of what I made on the screen. And I made it with Hillesvåg Ask in, what was it called? I think like mottled light grey and farmer blue, obviously with Norwegian names, but those are for translations. And I made the size large. So in this book, one of the things that I don't really like is the fact that there's only 3 sizes. There's small, medium and large. But it does have the charts in there, and if you're, experienced enough or adventurous, you can always kind of do your own thing with the charts. But I think it was the first one I made. I did follow the size large, and it was a surprise for her, so I was really hoping that it would be okay and that it would fit her. I got my father-in-law to find one of her sweaters that fits her, that she likes wearing, and I just measured across the kind of bust area, and also I think I should have done the arms, but I think I only did the bust area. So measured across and then doubled it to get the full circumference. So yeah, I was working on that for quite a few months actually. I bought the yarn and started it in July because I really wanted to get a head start on the Christmas knitting. I knew I wanted to make it for her. So it was quite a nice knit. I really like using that wool, especially for colour work. It's really great for colour work. It is a little bit more of a what people call rustic wool, but I don't think it's scratchy. It's not super soft, but to me it's not scratchy. But I think that's one of those things that you can't really tell people whether something is scratchy or not, because everybody has different sensitivities and different ideas about what is scratchy and what's soft. But to me, this one is not scratchy. Yeah, so let's see. I started in July and I had it finished. I can't remember. Quite quickly, within a few months. Switching between projects and things. And then it took me a while to get the buttons, so I didn't actually have it finished until like a week before Christmas, but the knitting part of it was done way before that. I did swatch for it to make sure that my knitting tension was right, and I thought it was right, and I started the project and it was a little bit tighter than it should have been, so I went up a needle size or 2, but I kind of made the mistake of not ripping out what I'd started. I thought, okay, well, I'll just do from this point, because it's knit from the bottom up. So I figured, the most important area that fits is the bust area, so I figured the bottom would be okay and it wasn't, hugely off gauge. So I continued knitting and I finished the garment and tried it on myself, and the bottom was not working, basically. Because there was so much ribbing at the bottom, it was really just like pulling in, and it meant there wasn't a nice clean line at the front. So I did some surgery on it. I'll put a picture up. It was quite intense surgery, but I managed it in the end. I had to cut out a little portion at the bottom and then re-knit it and kind of do like Kitchener stitch all along, and mattress stitching at the edges, and it was a process, but I managed it in the end. In future I will learn from that, and I'll just frog whatever knitting I've done. If it's not the right tension, I'll just pull it out and start again. It's not worth the hassle. I think I didn't put it out because I'd spent quite a lot of time on it already, and I was just excited to have the project started, and I didn't want to rip it out, but sometimes that's necessary. So I gave that to her for Christmas. I think she was really happy with it, hopefully she was, and it did fit as well, so that was perfect. I don't have to make any adjustments. To make something like this cost me about 600 krones, I think. I can't remember exactly how much yarn I used, but I think that's roughly, so that's about £50 with today's exchange rate. And the second gift that I made that I don't have with me is I made the Tartan Toque, Toque, I think they call it Toque, hat by Tracie Miller of the Grocery Girls Knitting podcast. If you haven't seen their podcast, it's great fun. Watch it every time without fail. They're two sisters from Canada, and honestly they just make me laugh, and they have such great personalities and sense of humour. Just makes me smile every time. And they do quite long podcasts as well. They're like 2 hours long. So great to get some knitting done while watching that. This is a paid for pattern that she made, so it's $7 Canadian, and you get the pattern for the hat in some different sizes, and also it comes with a cowl as well, matching cowl. And I really liked the pattern as soon as I saw it when she showed it on her podcast. It's mosaic knitting, so it gives kind of the effect of colour work, except you're not working with two different colours at the same time. So on some rows you'll be slipping some stitches and knitting with one of the colours, and then other rows you'll be slipping other stitches and knitting with the second colour. So it's really easy, don't be intimidated by it. It's great if you're looking for a colour work effect but you don't like knitting colour work. So I'll pop a picture up of what the pattern looks like, but I unfortunately didn't take a picture of my finished project. But I made the one without bubbles, and it was just using Hillesvåg Ask, so the same yarn as what I used for the kofte, in slightly different colours. So I did use the mottled light grey. No, I didn't use that one. That's a lie. I used a dark blue and kind of a lighter blue. But I will definitely make one for myself because I really enjoyed it, and I do have some leftovers that I can use for that hat with the same yarn. So yeah, I recommend that pattern. It was really good. Let's see. I feel a bit all over the place today. I haven't recorded for a while, so bear with me. Right. Oh yes, this one I'm really excited about. So I had planned for a while my Christmas Eve cast on. Back in, it must have been around March, so when all this COVID stuff started happening, I ordered some yarn to my mum's house in England because I like ordering from, there's the website Wool Warehouse, which if you haven't checked it out, it's a really great website. They have a lot of different yarn and other crafting things on there as well. Lots of different knitting stuff and embroidery, etc. They now started selling fabric as well, and I know they do international shipping to a huge range of different countries. But at that time with COVID going on, they weren't doing international shipping, and I really wanted to get some yarn for this project, but also for a couple of other projects. So I ordered it to my mum's house, and then she was going to be coming to visit and bring it with her, which never happened. She still hasn't been to come and visit, and I haven't been there to visit. But she did send it in the post, which I'm really grateful for. So I must have received this package kind of end of summer, early autumn, and I decided just to put it to the side because I had lots of other things I was working on, and decided to make it my Christmas Eve cast on because I was really excited about it. So I'll hold it up. You probably recognise it unless you've been living under a rock or you're new to the knitting community. This is The Shift by Andrea Mowry. I'll pop it on so you can see. This is a paid for pattern on Ravelry, and it's $7 US, and it's really beautiful. So this pattern is for a sport weight yarn, and she uses spin cycle yarn, which is quite pricey yarn from what I understand. But I saw on a lot of people's projects pages for that pattern that they had used Malabrigo yarn, specifically Malabrigo Arroyo, because that's the sport weight one. So I was looking at different people's projects pages and just thought it was so beautiful, the different colour combinations that people did. And I did find one by, let's see, I have it written down here, ctbieber's Ravelry project. I'll have that written on the screen. And I saw hers and I just fell in love with it. So I decided to kind of copy it. So I can't take credit for these colours. So I used, there's the Malabrigo Arroyo, so there's 3 different colours. There's Coffee Toffee, Purpuras, and then Lotus. Now Lotus she didn't use, but the one that she did use I couldn't buy at Wool Warehouse, so I went for one that was relatively similar and had some blue in it. So those are the ones that I went for, and the only modifications that I made was switching up some of the colours. So she has 3 different colours, A, B and C, and then she tells you which colours to use in which sections. And I kind of switched that up a little bit to whatever I thought would look nice. And I have the full details of which colours I used where on my projects page on Ravelry if you want to check that out. But I'm super happy with how it turned out. This is my first time using Malabrigo and I'm really impressed. It's super soft and squishy, and the colours are just stunning. So it is, I believe, hand-dyed yarn. I think it's made in Peru, if I'm not mistaken. And they just have really, really gorgeous colours. I can't stop touching it now. And price is not too bad. It was about £13.50 on Wool Warehouse for 100 grams. So it is one that's a little bit more pricey than, say, commercial yarns that come ready wound in balls. But I think it was so worth it for a project like this, and I didn't need a whole lot of it either. So I had the 3 different colours, and I have weighed them since finishing this project, and I do actually have enough to make another one if I wanted to. So I'm going to leave it kind of sat in my stash for now while I think about what I want to do with it, but I probably will make another one of these and perhaps just keep it as a gift, put it in a gift box, because I think it's really lovely. It is 100% merino if I haven't said that already, and I just love it so much. I think I would love to try some more Malabrigo yarns as my budget allows, but at the moment I'm trying not to buy anything, so not at the moment. Okay, I might leave this on for now because I really love it. I believe I have one more finished object to show you. I hope you're not getting bored. I think this is going to be a relatively long one. So I've been trying to work through my stash, or the leftovers that I have and things like that. So I was looking through and I had a lot of kind of colourful, I don't even know if it's fingering weight or DK weight. Maybe it's sport weight. I'm going to go for sport weight. But not enough of each one to make something in just a solid colour. So I thought it would be nice to make a striped jumper for for my coming niece. So you might remember in previous episodes of my podcast that I've been talking about, I've been showing some baby knits and saying that someone I knew was pregnant and having a baby in February. I don't think she'll mind me saying my sister is expecting, so she's having her baby in February next month. I can't quite believe how quick this time has gone. I didn't say anything at first because when she told me she wasn't too far along, and I didn't know who she had told and who she hadn't, so just in case someone was watching that we both knew who she hadn't told, then I wouldn't get in trouble. But now everyone must know. So all the stuff that I've knit has been for her, and this one is also for her. This is the Flax Light pattern by Tincanknits. So if you watched other people's knitting podcasts, I'm sure you've heard of this pattern. It's a really great raglan pullover that is a free pattern on Ravelry, and it ranges from I think newborn to up to like adult, like large adult sizes. It's very size inclusive, and they have two different versions. This is the Flax Light, which recommends using a fingering weight, and then they have the flax, like the original flax, which I'm not sure if it's a DK weight or an Aran. So I went with the Flax Light because of the yarn that I had, and I made size 6 to 12 months. And the only modification that I made was I didn't do the garter stitch detailing down the side of the sleeve. I just did a stockinette stitch all the way around, and that's because I didn't want anything to detract from the pattern, like the striping and the bold colours. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. She is having a girl, so I put something together that I thought would work for a girl, but I mean, I think this would also work for a boy. Sorry, that's my dog. And yeah, so I think it's nice to have some things that aren't necessarily super girly to have in her wardrobe. So yeah, that's all there is to say about that one, really. Oh, in terms of the striping, that was something I had to work out because obviously the pattern is just using a solid colour the whole way through. So I looked at the schematics of the pattern for the size I was going to make. So it's got the different measurements of what the jumper should measure as. And so I kind of just split that number into however many stripes I wanted, which happened to be 5, and then yeah, so I did 5.5 centimetres of knitting in each colour, and it did end up slightly longer than it says in the pattern, but yeah, otherwise it is knit to pattern. So those are all my finished objects for this podcast. Honestly, with the amount of knitting I've done, I thought it would be more than that. Yeah. So now we can move on to my works in progress. The first work in progress that I want to talk about is probably my favourite one. And I showed this in my last episode. And this is the Stonecrop Cardi by Andrea Mowry. I feel like there's been a lot of Andrea Mowry this episode. And this is a paid for pattern on Ravelry. It's $8 and it's a fingering weight pattern. Let's see, I'm not quite sure how to hold this up. I do have a picture of me wearing this on Instagram if you want to check that out. But this is, I'm still counting this as a work in progress because although it's basically finished, maybe I can hold up the back. Although it's basically finished, I do need to add some buttons on it, and I do need to, I don't know if I need to block it or something, because the ribbing is kind of like rolling inwards, so when I'm wearing it, yeah. And also I've left the steek edges raw, so I haven't covered them, and I'm not sure if I will or not. This is quite a rustic yarn, so it should hold up pretty well, but maybe that would help with the rolling, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll pop the picture up on the screen that I have from Instagram, because I'm finding it really hard to hold this up to show you properly. It is such a beautiful pattern. I really thoroughly enjoyed making this. It was just as exciting for me to work on it when I cast it on as when I was finishing it up. Partly because of the pattern, partly because of the colours that I used. So this is yarn from Hillesvåg again. I'm a big Hillesvåg fan. This is the Hillesvåg Sølje, which is a fingering weight, and it's really, really lovely. I don't know what else to say about it. It's another rustic one. It's 100% Norwegian wool, as with all of the yarns, I believe. And I had this yarn sitting in my so-called stash for a while. So I went to the Hillesvåg yarn factory. They have a shop there. So there's like the little factory area, and then they have this really beautiful shop. And they also have like a kind of sale section, this little basket where they have yarns that they're in their hanks, but they don't have labels, I don't think, or some of them do. But they put those in there. Sometimes they are ones that the weight is a little bit off what it should be, or they're selling it on sale for whatever reason. And I just fell in love with these colours. And so I actually bought this yarn with no idea what I was going to do with it, which is not like me at all. Normally when I buy yarn I have a project in mind. And so it was sitting in my stash for ages, and when I saw this pattern on Ravelry, I just knew that was the one. And so I knit this pretty much to pattern. I can't remember what size I made, but it will be on my projects page on Ravelry. And the only modifications that I made was that, first of all, I did a German twisted cast on. I think the pattern uses a tubular cast on, which I'm not a big fan of tubular cast ons or bind offs. But I did try the tubular bind off on the sleeve edges. I'm just not a huge fan of how it looks, and also I found it quite difficult to get the tension right, get the tension even. And to me, the cast off was just more of a hassle than it was worth. So I didn't do that for the end, like the ribbing at the bottom of the body. I think I just bound off in pattern and went up a needle size to make sure that it wasn't too tight. And I did change up the colours slightly, and I have more details of that on my projects page, what I used where. But I did this kind of stripe of where I switched the main colour and the contrast colour, and I also introduced this new contrast colour, which is this pink here, which I've also used here, and then the last lot of bubbles before the end of the sleeves and the body I did in this pink as well, just to kind of tie it together. And I'm really, really happy with how it's turned out. I honestly don't know how much this cost me to make, because I bought the yarn on sale so long ago, I actually can't remember. And I'm not sure how much yarn I used. I think I had 3 skeins of the background colour, which is this kind of, it's like a beige colour with this almost like reddish tint to it. It's really beautiful. I think I used 3 skeins of that one. and, or, you know, under 3 skeins, but I had to break into the 3rd skein. And I think I used just 1 skein of the burgundy colour, maybe just over 1, and obviously not very much of this pink colour. But at the same time as making this and finishing this off, I was also making some, excuse me, some Christmas balls. So I was following the Anna and Carlos advent calendar. So they had an advent calendar on sale on their website, and the idea was to make one of the Christmas balls, like a Christmas ball ornament, each day leading up to Christmas. So around from the 1st of December to the 24th. And I had great intentions. I was going to make one every day. I was going to keep up with it. I kept falling behind and then catching back up, and then ended up not finishing it because I just had too much to do, really, and it was too much of a commitment to knit one a day. I think each one took between 2 and 3 hours. So although it's quite a small project, it does take some time, and I just didn't end up having the time. But that's fine. I can continue next year, this coming Christmas, if I want to, and add to the collection. If you want to see what they look like, then head over to my Instagram. I don't actually have them with me. I've put them in storage now. So yeah, that's this one. I would highly recommend this pattern. It's so beautiful. You could really have fun with it with different colour combinations. Each section is quite a long row repeat, but you could switch up the colours every however many rows and have different colours all the way through, or yeah, you could get really creative with that one. What should I show next? I have so many projects on the go. My next work in progress is another baby knit. So I had this yarn in my stash. This is the, I think it's Trysil Babygarn. So it's 100% merino and perfect for baby knitting, hence baby in the name. And I bought this quite a while ago on sale. There's a shop here called Europrice here in Norway, which has a yarn section and sells, I believe exclusively sells this Trysil brand of yarn. I haven't found it anywhere else. This is a fingering weight, and it's this beautiful lavender colour. And yeah, so this one time I went to the shop, they had this huge basket of yarn that was on sale that they'd actually packaged up into little bags, and you could get, like, for example, 6 to 8 skeins of 50 grams for around, they were different prices. Some were like 50 krones, which is like £4. Some were 100 krones, which is like £8. So they were super cheap, because usually one of these will cost around 30 krones, so like £2.50 or something. So it was a really good offer. So I took advantage of that and got a couple of different bags of different colours. Honestly, I wanted to buy the whole lot, but I had to restrain myself a little bit. And seeing as my sister was having a baby shower on Sunday, it's Thursday today, so the past Sunday we did a Zoom baby shower. And I didn't really miss out because everyone was on Zoom, so that was quite nice that I didn't miss out too much. In England, the corona restrictions are quite tight at the moment. People aren't allowed to be mixing, so everything was on Zoom, and I really wanted to make something extra that I could show that she hadn't seen yet, because I get too excited about everything I'm knitting and I show her because I can't keep anything a secret. So this is the Lille Dahlia solo dress. And this is by Lene Holme Samsøe. I'm guessing that's how that's pronounced. I believe she's a Danish designer, so yeah, that's how I would pronounce that name in Norwegian. And it's a really beautiful pattern that has a little bit of kind of lace detailing at the top, and yeah, just really, really pretty, simple dress. And this pattern is a paid for pattern on Ravelry, but it actually comes as a bundle of patterns. So you pay 60 Danish krones and you get, there's a pullover, a top, a cardigan, a dress and a onesie, or what some people might call a romper. So you get all those patterns in one little, in one PDF document, because they all have the same pattern at the top. I believe they're all worked top down, so it's kind of a similar pattern and shaping at the top, and then depending on which pattern you choose you can shape it differently at the bottom to get a different garment. So I really like that idea. I think that's really really great to have all those options in the same pattern. And this was just a joy to knit, really. The pattern was clear and easy to follow. The only modification that I made was that I did short sleeves on the dress. So in the picture and in the pattern it has long sleeves, but I thought it would look nicer with short sleeves. I thought it would be nice for a little summery dress. So it's another fingering weight pattern. I seem to make a lot of fingering weight patterns, and they have the sizes from newborn to 4 years. But I have checked out her Ravelry pattern shop, and she has the same pattern in like child sizes as well, but you have to buy a different bundle. And I believe there's a similar, if not the same pattern in an adult pullover. But again, that's a different pattern that you have to purchase. So this is really, really almost finished. The only thing I need to do is to sew this hem at the bottom. So rather than doing ribbing at the bottom, you do a round of purl, so you have a point that's easy to fold over, and then you just continue in stockinette for I think about 3 centimetres, and then you're going to fold it back underneath the dress and sew it down. So I thought that was quite interesting. I haven't done it yet because I'm not the best sewer. I'm much better at knitting than like the sewing parts of projects, and I don't want it to show on the right side of the work where I've stitched. So I'm not quite sure how to tackle it. Maybe I'll just have to give it a go, and if anyone has any tips, like any good resources, like maybe some YouTube videos or something, I would really appreciate that. So that's that one, and I have, I believe, 3 more works in progress to show, if anybody is still watching. Let's see, I will show this one down here. So when my mum sent me the yarn for this cowl, she also sent over some other yarn, and so last January, I think it was January, I knit myself a Hitofude cardigan. I'll pop a picture up on the screen, and this is a pattern by Hiroko Fukatsu, and I really enjoyed knitting it. I loved everything about the project. I loved the yarn that I used, the pattern was easy to follow, it was really interesting construction, and I just loved the end product as well. And when I was showing it to my mum, she really loved it and asked if I would knit one for her, so I said of course. So she bought the yarn and then sent it over to me, so she's paid for the yarn and I'm just doing the knitting. And she chose, so I recommended which yarn to get. This is the Drops Baby Alpaca Silk, which is the same yarn that I used last time I just really loved, I loved the feel of it. It's really kind of soft. It's a perfect kind of summery yarn, in that it won't be a really warm garment. And when it blocks, it just drapes beautifully. So she chose this colour here. I can't remember what colour this is, but it will be on my projects page on Ravelry. It's this really nice purple, which I think was a bit brighter than she'd expected. Sometimes when you're ordering yarn online, it's difficult to tell from the picture exactly what it's going to look like. But once it's knit up, I think it kind of dampens down some of the brightness a little bit. And I think this will be really, really nice on her. So I've actually just finished the section that's going to form the back and the sleeves. So the construction is that you knit flat like this for whatever length you need for it to fit around the top of your arm. And then you will pop the end bits together you knit them together with a 3 needle bind off on both sides to form the sleeves, and then you continue knitting. I'm trying to hold this up so I can show you, and then you continue knitting this bit that's dangling, so it makes the kind of body of the cardigan. And yeah, I really enjoy knitting this. It's quite relaxing. And the pattern is super memorisable. Like, I still remember it from last time that I made it, and I made it a year ago. So I don't have to keep looking at the chart, which is nice. So it's kind of good TV knitting, and for me, I can knit on that and talk to someone at the same time. For other people, that might be different for lace knitting, but this one I can manage that. So I'm knitting it pretty much the same as last time, but I have made I'm going to make a couple of modifications. So the first time that I knit it, I was checking all the projects pages on Ravelry and noticed that quite a lot of people extended the length of the arms a little bit. So they changed the cast on number. And because I'd never knit lace before, I'd never knit this type of construction before, and I was relatively new to knitting, I didn't want to change anything about it and confuse myself and then make a mess of it. So I basically just stuck to the pattern last time. And since having the garment for a year and wearing it, I do agree that it would have been nicer to have the sleeves a little bit longer. The sleeves for me kind of fell right into the elbow crease, and so it kind of ends up kind of bunching up that little bit at the edging of the cardigan. It doesn't look as crisp and neat as I would like. It's not a huge issue, but that's just something that I knew I would change if I made it again. And I also found that when I was blocking the cardigan after finishing it, it was really difficult to block the sleeves because they're already in the round, and you're blocking everything else. And yeah, it was difficult to block the sleeves, so I didn't really block the sleeves like I blocked the rest of it. So the sleeves don't have the same effect as the rest of the cardigan because although it fits fine, the lace hasn't really opened up and bloomed the same way as the body of the cardigan. So this time what I did was I asked my mum to measure from her underarm to wherever she wanted the sleeves to finish. And then I followed, there's a project on Ravelry under the Hitofude cardigan project tab, and this is a project by Knitting Amy K on Ravelry, and she has some really helpful notes. So what I did to find this one is I went onto the projects tab of the pattern, and then I selected on the filter section at the top all helpful projects. So when people have seen project notes and think it's been helpful, they can mark it as helpful, and then you can find projects that people have found helpful notes for. So I found hers, and she had really detailed description about how to work out your cast on number based on the length of the sleeves you want. So I followed that. So if you're interested in making this cardigan and modifying the sleeves, then I would really check out that project page because it really helped me. And the other thing that I'm going to do with this cardigan is I've knit to the point that I need for the width of the sleeves, the diameter of the sleeves. And what I'm going to do now is put this on waste yarn and I'm going to block it. So I'm going to block the sleeve portion before I do the 3-needle bind off and hope that when I come to block it at the end that helps. So we'll see if that works or not. So I just need to block this and then I can continue working on it. And I'll show you the progress. Okay, we're getting there. The other thing that I've been working on, which I have been working on, it's been a work in progress for quite a while. This is a jumper that I'm making for my husband called the Islander, which is a Norwegian pattern. So let's see. I can't remember where I was at last time I showed this, but I have finished the body section of the sweater. So I've knit this bottom up, and yeah, I just compared this to, as I've said before, I compared this to a sweater that he likes the fit of, so I've tried to make it similar to that one. So I've knit up to the point where the underarm is. And then I started on the sleeves. Now this is my second attempt at a sleeve because when we went away to our new house over in the east of Norway, I forgot to bring my my notebook. I have this this notebook here that I put all my knitting stuff in, notes for the podcast, but also any notes that I need for other projects. So I have that as well as my projects page on Ravelry. So I put all of the measurements for the sweater that he liked in this book and I forgot to bring it with me. And I'd finished the body when we were over there and I really wanted to get started on the sleeves. So I decided just to try, without my notebook, I took some measurements from him and gave it a go and it didn't work out very well. So I'm going to frog that one, and I started this new one when I got home and I could measure the sleeves properly on his sweater that he likes, and it's worked out a lot better. It is a little bit smaller in diameter than I thought it was going to turn out, but hopefully I can just block it a little bit. So I have finished one sleeve and I've just got the other sleeve to do, and then I can join them all in the round and figure out how to do the raglan decreases and how to figure out how to do like a little opening at the front. So yeah, this one is taking quite a while, mostly because I'm not following a written pattern. I am customising it. I am following the chart. It's a 4-row repeat, I think 6-stitch repeat. You can find the chart online, it's free. I'll have a link below for the chart that I found, which is Viking of Norway, Viking yarn. They have an English PDF document of different patterns. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom page, that's where you'll find the chart and the instructions for making it if you want to follow a pattern. And also another reason why this is taking so long is because I chose a fingering weight yarn for my husband's jumper. And I'm slightly regretting it. Oh, hang on, my alarm's going off. So to tackle that project, what I've been doing is knitting on it, usually in the evening. So at the moment I'm usually home during the day while my husband's at work, and I'll be knitting on whatever project I feel like I want to work on. And then when it comes to the evening and he's home and we've had dinner and then we're relaxing on the sofa watching TV, that is when I'll be knitting on his sweater. So that I know that I'll just kind of tackle it slowly with an hour or two each evening. and that really helped to get that sleeve done. So I think I'll continue that definitely for the other sleeve. It isn't a difficult knit, it's quite repetitive, and also I'm knitting the sleeves on 9-inch circulars, which can be a little bit hard on the hands, so I don't work on it for a long length of time in one go. So hopefully I'll have that one finished soon, because that would be perfect for spring for him. And then I just have one more work in progress to show, and it wouldn't be a podcast if I didn't have a pair of socks on my needles. So I'm knitting, just dropped my yarn. I'm knitting some Rauma socks. Now I showed this quite a long time ago, this booklet of Rauma sock designs, and I've made a couple in here already that I've shown before, and I wanted to make these ones that are on the cover. These are the diamond socks, or diamant sokker. And so I've had this yarn sitting in a bag somewhere for a while, because I planned to use it and I just hadn't gotten around to it. And everything's tangled. 1 second. Okay, so I've actually almost finished the first sock. Let's see, right. So here it is. I'm using 2 different colours of Sunless Sisu. I've got the 2564, which is this kind of golden brown mustardy colour, and 2650, which is this beige colour. It's kind of like a variegated beige. It's got some really nice kind of depth to it. And I've really almost finished these ones. Actually, I thought I had finished them last night, with only the ends left to weave in. But I tried it on and the foot was a little bit too long. So I picked up stitches a little bit lower and ripped the rest out, and I just need to do the toes again, and hopefully it will fit a lot better this time. And I've also started the ribbing of the second sock. Now you might wonder why I've started the second sock before finishing the first one, and that's because I couldn't sleep last night, and my husband was asleep in bed, and I knew the needles that I needed were on the bedside table, and I didn't want to disturb him. But then I remembered, so I put these on, I needed 3mm needles, and I put them on 2.75 just to hold them, so I could use a 9-inch circular to start the second one. But then I remembered I actually did have some extra 3mm needles that I found, so I continued on this one. So yeah, I really enjoy the patterns from this booklet. As I've said before, it's not, it's kind of like a typical Scandinavian pattern in the fact that they don't spoon feed you everything. So when it comes to the gusset decreases, there's no explanation of how to figure it out so that you still have the pattern looking right with the gusset decreases, because they only provide you with the chart. So it took me a little bit of figuring out of how to do that. I don't think I can even explain how I figured it out, because it took me a while. I used stitchfiddle.com, which I've talked about before, is a free online website where you can create some knitting charts. There's like the free version and then the pro version, but the free version is perfectly fine for things like this. So I figured out how many stitches I'd picked up along the gusset, and how many stitches I would need to decrease to get back to the number that I needed, and then figured out on the chart how to do it, basically. I don't know how else to say that. It was quite tricky, but I quite like challenges like that. I feel like it helps me to improve as a knitter. It helps me to understand how things are designed or how to do things, and I don't mind giving that a go every now and then. I just love knitting socks. It's really relaxing, and I find myself going back to this yarn time and again. It's kind of like on Ravelry it says fingering weight, but I think it's more like, perhaps a sport weight. It says heavy fingering. Like on one section of ravelry it says fingering, and then on another section it says heavy fingering. So does that mean sport weight or fingering? I don't know. But I really like the fabric that it creates. It is 80% wool and 20% nylon, so it's great for socks. And when it's knit in colour work like this, it has a little bit of a thickness to it. So it's not like knitting socks in, for example, opal or regia. And I quite like that. I like the socks to have some kind of structure to them. And doing the colour work means they're super warm because you've got that kind of double fabric where you're carrying the floats. And they're just super fun to knit because you're following a chart, the rounds go really quickly because you're doing something different each round. So I do really, really like knitting socks like this. I typically do a German twisted cast on. That's my kind of go-to cast on for when there's going to be ribbing. I just find that it looks really neat, it has a good amount of stretch to it but holds its shape when it's not being stretched. And I find the cast on method quite easy. Once you've got the hang of it, it's very similar to the long tail cast on. So every time that I want to do a cast on, I don't need to look up how to do it because I've memorised it. It's really easy to memorise. And so if I just want to cast on a pair of socks, even if I'm with people, chatting with people, I can do that no problem without having to pay too much attention to it. Now the other thing that I have done different with this pair of socks is the transition between the ribbing and the stockinette portion. So I was watching a video by, I think she's called Roxanne Richardson here on YouTube, and she does a range of different videos actually. She does like a Technique Tuesday video, and she also does like a Casual Friday podcast style video. And her channel is just quite unique, very different to anything else that I've found here on YouTube, and she just has so much knowledge about knitting, and I just love listening to her because I feel like I can learn a lot from her. And quite often she'll have videos on things that I didn't even know that I needed to know. So I like looking at her channel because I'll learn a lot without having to search specifically for things. And she was talking about how to improve the transition between ribbing to stockinette, and how you get a different effect or a different look when you go from ribbing to stockinette as opposed to from a stockinette to ribbing, and how it looks different and why it looks different, and how to kind of overcome that change. So she gives a couple of different methods, but one of the methods was to slip all of the knit stitches. So when you finish the ribbing, the next round you slip all of the knit stitches purlwise and you knit into the purl stitches, and then the round after that you just knit all the way around. And it's supposed to make the transition look a little bit better. With this first sock, when I was doing the slip round, I switched to the new colour, which I think I should have sticked with the old colour, but in her video she was doing, you know, a sample that was just one colour from the ribbing to the stockinette, so I wasn't sure which round to switch the colour. So on this second sock I'm switching the colour after the slip round just to see what the difference will be. And when I finish the socks I'll let you know what I think about that. I typically do an Eye of Partridge heel. I just really like how it looks. I find that when I do just a typical slip stitch heel, sometimes the lines, the pattern in the heel kind of detracts from the pattern of the sock. So if I'm doing a vanilla sock, I might be more inclined to do just the slip stitch heel, whereas when I'm doing a pattern sock, I quite like the Eye of Partridge. That's just a personal preference. So I'm still kind of figuring out like my personal preferences in terms of knitting socks, and I really hope one day to do kind of a detailed video here on YouTube about how I knit my socks and just like giving my tips for knitting socks. So I'm kind of working on that in the background, but I really want to kind of perfect it before I share all that information. So that will hopefully come one day. But that is all my works in progress for this episode. I hope maybe there's someone still watching. It's quite a long one today, so sorry about that. Normally my videos are about 30 minutes, not on purpose, but that's just usually how long they are. But seeing as I haven't recorded for 6 weeks and I've been doing quite a lot of knitting, I did have quite a lot to talk about today. So I thought I would just finish off today with what my plans are for this year in terms of knitting. I don't plan my knitting that much, like that far in advance. I kind of just go with the flow because that's what I enjoy, and it's my hobby for joy. But I do have a couple of things that I know that I want to do this year. The first one is that I'd really like to try and make the time and effort to record a podcast once a month here on YouTube. When I started last year, I wasn't sure how often I'd be posting because I was new to it. I wasn't sure how it would go, and I wasn't sure how much knitting I would get done. And I wanted to make sure I had things to show on the podcast. But I think once a month will probably work quite well for me. So that is the plan. I'm not going to have a specific day that I post because it will depend on when I can record. The second thing is that I'm hoping to knit some more baby knits, partly because my sister's having a baby next month, but also because last week I got the really exciting news that my best friend is expecting her first baby in August. So that's super exciting, and I would love to be able to knit some things for her as well. And let's see what else, I have it written down here. Yes, I want to knit some more summery items. So particularly things like strap tops, which I wear a lot of. And I want to find like some really good patterns for those and just experiment with that a little bit. And finally, I really want to continue working on using up my stash and my leftovers, which is what I've been doing for the past few months really. I haven't really bought much yarn except for my husband's sweater. I needed some more yarn for that, and I will be buying some yarn to hopefully knit something for my niece who is 5. I thought it'd be nice to knit something for her because the baby's coming and I don't want her to feel left out, so I thought I'd knit something for her as well. So that's in the plan, but I probably need to get some yarn for that. So there'll be things here and there, but mostly I want to try and work from my stash and just get through that a little bit. So that's my plans for 2021, and that kind of brings me to the end of my podcast today. So thank you everyone for watching. Well done if you've made it to the end. Don't forget my giveaway, so make sure you subscribe and like this video, and also leave a comment down below, preferably with something positive that happened to you or something positive from the year of 2020. And I will announce the winner in next month's podcast. So you have kind of 3 or 4 weeks to leave a comment, and I will be picking a winner at random. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you're doing well and hope you're enjoying your crafting, whatever that may be, and I will see you next time.